Hi guys, and I am back. This is Joyce. Joyce knows who done it. I know. I've been gone a minute, but you guys know I've been so busy, and I spent um, December and most of January doing personal readings, and that I'm not taking any new personal reading clients anymore, but I'm just finishing those, and then I was preparing for a class, so I've got that going on as well. I wish I finally got it together. So I'm very happy about that. But I'm glad to be back with you. I've got an interesting story for you. This story is about a young lady by the name of Elisa Lam, or Lam Ho Yi in Cantonese. Lam Ho Yi. Look, who is Elisa Lam? Elisa Lam, who was born April 30th, 1991, is a young lady who was in that video, that very viral video with the young lady in the elevator coming in and coming out and coming in and coming out. She was in the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, California. She is assumed to have died February 2nd of 2013. Alyssa her parents, anyways, were immigrants from China into Canada, and she was a Canadian student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, although she hadn't actually registered for class, and that was in the year of 2013. Now, like I said, Alyssa had graduated from high school, and she was going to be attending college, and it was the University of British Columbia, Vancouver, because she was a Canadian young lady. Her parents had immigrated there, and yet she had not actually even enrolled or not registered anyways. They have no records of her registering. But she told her parents that she wanted to take a trip to California before school started. And she did. She got to LA via the Amtrak. And then when she got there, she went through several cities riding on the bus. She actually got into LA on January 26, 2013. And she checked into the Cecil Hotel. Well, she seemed like she was fine initially when she checked in. And this must have been with some group. I didn't find what group she was with. But ultimately, she had a roommate. And after one day, the roommate went to the management and said, no way, she cannot stay in the room with us. The roommate complained that she was yelling and she was talking to herself, and she was going in and out of the room or the bathroom, and they just felt like it was too much. So the hotel agreed, and they decided to give her her own room. But yet she still seemed fine. No one knew if she was, yelling or talking to herself or anything in the room when she went to her own room. She did go sightseeing. In fact, she even went to the San Diego Zoo, and she had snapped pictures of herself traveling down to San Diego and going to the zoo. Now, the interesting thing about the Cecil Hotel, which is in Los Angeles, was that it was built in 1920, but it actually had been a hotel that had a lot of paranormal activity. There were several deaths of old-time Hollywood stars there. And at this point, this hotel was in a very dilapidated Skid Row type of area that she was staying in. But it was just for this trip. She wasn't moving there. Along with that, Alyssa, unbeknownst to anybody, had actually been diagnosed with bipolar and depression. And she was on 4 different types of medications, including Wellbutrin and 3 others. We don't know if she was actually taking the medication as she should, but I do know that all along the way on this trip, she would stay in touch with her parents every day. She would call and let them know, how she was doing and how things were going. And then on January 31st, 2013, the parents hadn't heard from her. They knew that she was on her way back, but they heard from her every day, and they hadn't heard from her, and they became very alarmed. Now, like I said, when her parents hadn't heard from her, they became very alarmed. And now we know they became alarmed because they knew that she had some mental and emotional disorders. Her parents ended up calling the Los Angeles Police Department, telling them what was going on, and the parents immediately flew into town to try to find her. Now, hotel staff said that they did see her walking out, in the lobby and everything, and that she was alone. She didn't seem like anything was wrong with her. But there was a manager in the bookstore, and where Elisa had gone in, and she was buying books and gifts for her family. And she said that Elisa seemed very chipper and upbeat and talkative and bubbly, and she was concerned if whether or not she could even carry the books. Would that be too heavy to go back on Amtrak? Well, the police did show up to the scene, and that was the Cecil Hotel, as you can see. And what they saw was nothing. They went through, including with canines. They searched through her room, through most of the hotel, not all the hotel. They did go up on the roof and look in a few places. They couldn't do a deep search because, according to the LA Police Department, they couldn't really go in every room or basements or anything unless there was probable cause that something more of a catastrophe could have happened. And being that she was old enough to decide that she wanted to, if she wanted to go on her own or she wanted to leave and not be in touch with her parents, that was not probable cause of anything at that point. Now it's February 6th, and police decided that they don't have enough help. They need more help. And they ended up creating some flyers and getting those flyers out all around LA. But here's my thought, just my little 2 cents. If my child has emotional illness where she's on 4 medications with bipolar and depression, there's no way in hell I'm letting her go anywhere by herself from Canada down to Los Angeles, California, in a Skid Row area. And it wasn't like Elisa was unfamiliar with the internet. She actually had I think a Tumblr page, Tumblr or Pinterest page where she was constantly taking pictures and writing about things that she wanted to do or be in her life. They weren't necessarily in alignment with what her parents wanted for her, but she was very well versed, and she had that site for at least 2 years that she would constantly write her own thoughts and opinions on. And I guess, as a matter of fact, it's a link you can click on there that you can still add stories onto there, even though the author of that page hasn't been adding anything, and there's still pages to be found. Now 2 more weeks have passed, and then on February 15th, the police decide to release a video because they're really trying to find this girl. Now it gets very serious. And the video, which has now gone viral and is still available on YouTube if you want to see it, is a video from inside the elevator of the Cecil Hotel, on the day that she went missing. The elevator shows her like in a red jacket, some black shorts she has on. I think it's a black top she has on top of that. And it shows her getting into the elevator, and she's pushing several buttons at one time. Now the elevator door is not closing. And of course, this is an older hotel built in 1920s. I'm sure they've updated the elevator system, but any elevator, any kind of mechanical electronic thing, if you go in and you push 3 or 4 buttons at the same time, it's going to lock it up. And so you see her step out of the corner where the control panel is. She's up in the corner, and she steps out of the corner, and she looks out the door to the left and to the right. She steps back in. She does that again a few times. She actually gets out of the elevator where we can't see her, because she goes, to the side where you can't see anybody, because you can see from that camera inside the elevator and out the door, but you can't see to the left or the right of that opening. And she goes to the left of that opening, and then she comes back, and now she's flailing her hands, and she literally has the elevator door open, and her hands are going up and down like she's trying to break an invisible wall, getting into it like something is there. And she's just completely lost and confused and disoriented. I think at one time she's even down on her knees. Now, some people say that clip has been edited and things have been placed in or taken out of it. Some speculate that there may have been somebody else on the elevator and they took it out because that person didn't have anything to do with the case. Some people think that she was being chased by someone. Some people say that there may have been some type of apparition or something paranormal going on. There was a lot of speculation, and they had that video available here in the States, and even in China, they had that video available, and it's still available. And people have made up a lot of theories on what they think was going on with her. Some believe that she was even under drugs or something like that. But none of that seemed to be the real case. Police were searching for Elisa. Even that first time, that was on the 6th of February, guests started complaining, and there was a coffee shop there, that the water pressure was very low. And the hotel really didn't do anything about it. And then this became like a real big complaint for them. And they even said that the water was coming out black. And some people said the water tasted really funny. They just did not know what was going on. So finally, the hotel sent the maintenance crew up there to take a look. And they had 3 tanks of water. And they went and took a look at these tanks. Let me see if I can find a picture. So the people are complaining about the water. And it ends up that the maintenance go upstairs. And this is an example of one of the water tanks. There's one here, there's one over there, and there's one further over there. And you can see that this is where they found her, in this water tank. They ended up finding her clothes folded up nice and neatly next to the opening. And it was her that was in the water tank and causing problems in the water tank. Now, people are saying, what happened? Maybe somebody murdered her. Maybe something to that degree happened. But when I take a look at it, that's not what I see at all. When I take a look at Elisa, when I asked her about it, pretty much she just came right out with it. Now, her birthday was February 30th, 1991. And so she had a number 9 life year, like I said. So that meant that people are going to always remember her. And she was still in a number 3 year where she wanted to be doing something different, unique, birthing some brand new idea or birthing a new her in some way. And things weren't going this way. And this is what would make her feel like, I'm a victim, I'm no good, nobody likes me, that type of energy. And so I decided to do some cards on her. When I asked her about it, the first thing that came up was the 10 of Swords that tells me that she's not here anymore and that she decided that I'm going to let this part of myself go. In addition, she had the Page of Cups. So that told me that she was drinking or she was using substances. There was something in there that she wasn't supposed to do. It also told me that she was a very immature young lady that was just lost in her emotions, even though she had reached an older age. I think that she was, by that point, one is very young. And she was very young, not only young, but also immature. And that spoke to the reasons of her bipolar and her depression. She wasn't growing at the rate that she should. I've got the Hermit card for her as her foundation that said that she'd like to be on her own. She'd like to be independent. She wanted to take this trip. She really wanted to see what she was made of, okay? She wanted to go out there and discover the world on her own. She wanted something brand new in her life because she just felt like it wasn't happening. And then she got the Justice card. And a lot of times the Justice card is what you give out, you get back. And it's like cause and effect, okay? And that's what was happening in her life. Things were not working out the way that she wanted them to. The choices she was making, like going to LA by herself, okay? That is the cause. And what was the effect that followed that was the 8 of Swords. And that shows me that she was deeply unwell. She was not well. That Page of Cups says that she wasn't taking her medicine the way that she needed to. The 8 of Swords is someone that's really trapped in their mind. They can't find clarity. She had the 2 of Swords and the 9 of Swords. The 2 of Swords told me that she was in the midst of trying to decide, am I going to stay here or I'm going to go? Am I going to go to school, or am I going to do something different? And she had a lot of pressure from her parents to be normal, to fit in, to follow family traditions. And she didn't want to do that. She even had the Nine of Swords. She had not slept, guys. She had not slept. She wasn't taking her medication appropriately. She wasn't getting her sleep appropriately. She was so worried about her next step, going into college and trying to be normal. And she didn't feel normal. And she wasn't taking her medication the way she's supposed to. And I have to say that shame on the parents for allowing her to take this trip at 21 years old and expect that she was going to be completely responsible taking her medication. And I happen to know someone that was on these particular type of medications, and then they didn't take the medications, and they went from this middle place to this big swing of just behavior that was unrealistic, just kind of crazy almost. And she had the Seven of Pentacles that says that she was just barely holding on. Ultimately, she ended up with the Temperance card that said that it was her time, that she left, and she did that on her own, and that the angels were with her, and she did not suffer, even though it seems like terrible. And people say, well, how did she get in that? If you take a look at that hole, that opening, that square, because people think that she lifted this all up, and she did not lift that all up. She can just open up the square. She climbed up there herself. You see, when you don't take your medications, and I'm not a doctor, I'm just talking about from my own personal experience that I happen to know. If you don't take your medication, next thing you know, you start doing what she was doing and her roommates complained about and people saw her doing, is you start talking out loud. You start talking to those old people you liked or you didn't like. You think you see them. You're fully engaged in a conversation with them. You think that people are after you, or if people touch you, you're going to catch something from them. And I'm not talking about this C virus. I'm talking about something else. You think you hear voices coming through walls and people coming from you. And that poor little girl was out there by herself without being medicated, feeling free and open to the world. And then she got into that in a way to escape, relax, and that is what happened to her. She ended up being found. She was very bloated. They found no signs of a struggle, whether it be anybody shot her, stabbed her, bludgeoned her. She was not sexually assaulted in any way. Absolutely nothing. They did the toxicology on her. They found some alcohol in her system. They did not find any street drugs. That may have come out because she had been in there quite some time. They're estimating that she died on the 2nd. They found her on the 13th. But what she didn't have in her, though, was her medication, her prescription medication. I take prescription medications, and some of you do too. And people can come, doctors can come right now, take a sample of blood. It's in us. Take a sample of blood tomorrow. It's in us. Because you take it every day, and it just stays in your system all the time. So much so that you can miss a day or two and then start taking it again as you usually do. So what happened to Elisa Lam is very sad. Lam Ho Yi, my prayers are with you and your family, and I hope that they find some resolution or conclusion. Her family did try to sue the hotel as well as the police, but it was to no avail because she was an adult. There was nothing done to her, and it was considered an accident. So, guys, I thank you so much. I'm glad you watched that show. I'm glad you watched the channel. I got so many people asking me about the channel. I hope you actually watch the videos. Have a great day. Bye now.